And apparently my invitation has already been secured for next year, so it's a little bit less stress to slug it out in the titled cup, because I barely made it this year. It was the last Grand Prix that I qualified, so I can maybe focus more on classical instead of playing every Title Tuesday for the next year.
Yeah, leave that to the retired commentator GMs. We'll give them more of a
and
chance. And IMs.
Their lives matter too.
And Canada Masters.
Yes.
Who tend to do pretty well in Title Tuesdays. But let's start by looking at this second game. We have a Ruy Lopez. No surprise there from Alireza. First game was a very back and forth draw, but ultimately pretty high level. No big blunders. Your thoughts on this position here as Alireza trying to outplay Magnus in very typical Ruy Lopez structure?
Yeah, the pawn on b4 is a bit weird. Like, I don't know. Can you go back? When did he play b4? Like, before he played?
He played before.
Oh, wow. Nice. Okay, yeah, this is very...
To kick the knight away.
Interesting, yeah. a5.
Challenging the b4 pawn, and now a3.
Yeah, it's unclear. It's unclear. Okay, black sort of has everything they want, right? The knight is on d7 already. Yeah, d5 comes. Usually you have this position, but the knight is on c6. So now you have pressure on the a file. I think he's already equalized quite easily.
And now a takes b4. Bishop takes b4 is also a threat.
Yeah.
A little bit awkward, or so it feels. Maybe c7, c5?
Yeah, probably I would presume that you might want to take on e4 and then play c5. c5 first. It doesn't make a difference.
I mean, we're close.
Well, now there might be e takes d5 now. Maybe because if you take and then take on a5 maybe. You have c4. Yeah, so he takes. He might play c takes b4 now, and then there could be.
Could be the record for most successive number of captures here.
Yeah, there's some weird tactics here. It's probably all going to liquidate. You probably want to trade the bishops. Definitely, I think c takes b4 is, you should include that, because you can't really take on d5. If knight d5, then ba5, and yeah, so he takes. Yeah, if we're going to trade on a1, maybe I think bishop takes d5 is the most principled move.
Playing for the advantage. D takes b4 feels like very drawish, especially if the rooks get traded.
Yeah, you know, c4 you could play rook a8, queen 8, c4. That was probably a bit, it's a bit too much. Yeah, c4. The thing is, once they take on d5, you'll probably just play d4, and then everything's just going to get traded. But maybe could go wrong. We'll see if he can squeeze anything.
Okay, so here the big decision for white. c4 connected passers, but black at the c5 square.
Yeah, but no, we just take and d4.
White takes on e5.
Like I think you just take and play d4, and then everything is just traded.
And if white takes on d5, takes on e5?
Yeah, I think you'll play d4. There's knight b4, but you can even play like queen b1.
Okay, so this is 4 moves of successive captures.
Yeah.
This would be 5.
e5 is hanging, yeah, but that's a good point.
Knight e5, bishop b4, knight c6. This is why I don't calculate anymore.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably knight e5, knight b4. It's the simplest. I think it's going to liquidate.
Knight e5.
I like d4. I don't know, maybe I'm... We'll see. It's very dry. This is the problem with the Marshall. Like, you see a little like 0.25, and then you think you have something, and then black just plays logical moves, and then the advantage just disappears.
You've shown a predilection for the Italian. Is it because of this? Do you feel like there's more life in that opening? Ruy Lopez?
It's hard to say. Against Tikar, I went for the Ruy Lopez, obviously because the system he was playing was quite shaky. But then he switched to Berlin, which is, of course, sort of indestructible. So I think in the Italian, there's a lot of life. I think that's probably the most important, like, high-level opening. Because, okay, the Petrov, you sort of just hate your life.
Both colors?
Yeah, for both, yeah. And then the Italian is like, okay, the Berlin is just it's kind of lifeless, to be honest. Like,
what about the Jabava London?
Yeah, that...
Someone has a chessable course on it.
Yeah,
for the name.
Yeah, it's fine. I forgot about that. Yeah. I think at the right moment, yeah, maybe in bullet, I should have tried it. So, you know, there was a point where I played it so much that everyone was prepared against it.
Yep.
So maybe I can bring it back to life, and I think the surprise factor is really everything in chess right now. I think if you don't, it's just when you know your opponent's expecting it, it's just really, especially in a classical game, it's just not enjoyable when people can prepare. And there's so many lines like against the Jabava London, so it's easy to be surprised.
They keep adding new ones like a6 and h6 now.
Yeah, that actually was invented by Parham Maksudlu. And I stole that idea.
Well, that's what chess innovation is all about. You see something in a bullet brawl or a Title Tuesday, and then play it in a classical game, and
yeah,
Chess history gives you the
Yeah.
footnote. Queen b2 in the meantime. So white refraining from knight takes e5. Black plays queen
Yeah.
b8. Feels like maybe Magnus is playing for a small edge here.
Yeah, I think it's sort of imaginary, but it could go wrong. It could go wrong. Obviously, White's position's a bit loose. I don't know. I still think White is completely fine, but it's so solid. There are no weaknesses. Maybe knight c3, no knight 5, no knight c3, knight c5. Okay, I still like White, but it's just so solid. But it's a little bit loose. Could go wrong.
Bishop takes c5, obviously loses a piece because of
Yeah.
bc, hitting the b6 knight, which defends the other one.
Probably will play queen c8 maybe, or some. It's actually not that easy to choose a move here. It's not maybe queen d6. There could be d4. So you have to be a bit careful. Knight f6, yeah, it's very solid. Now the next knight comes to d5 or to d7. Yeah,
Very Magnus-like move.
sort of like an
Maybe the
imaginary.
strongest piece.
Yeah, this sort of an imaginary advantage. Yeah, that's the issue, that you sort of with not much time, you can really play these positions quite quickly, and it's just like you're hit. That's what my match. I was playing the Italian against Maxime and Wesley, and my win rate with White was insane, like maybe 4 games in a row, and that sort of just didn't work well in both matches here. So if you can defend these positions well, then okay. See, now it's getting a little bit shaky. Not shaky, but the issue with these positions is that once one thing goes wrong, you start to get a bit nervous, and then another thing goes wrong, and then it's easy to sort of collapse in this time control.
And it feels like Magnus, obviously a lot of things make him as good as he is, but his technique, when he smells blood, he tends to pounce on the first available opportunity.
Yeah, maybe they'll repeat here. I don't know.
Bishop d6. Okay, suddenly he's 45 seconds up on the clock also.
Yeah. Well, okay, queen b.
What about d4 here? Is that beneficial for black?
Definitely not. I don't like. No, definitely don't want to close the bishop. D4, e4, knight e5, queen b7, and probably have some. Could be strategically risky at some point.
Knight d2 heading for e4. Alireza trying to bail out.
Yeah. Okay. Probably.
You're like, this is the most boring SEC game of all time.
No, it's tick. Rick, no, I don't like this. I don't like where this is going.
You think Magnus is in the driver's seat here, hitting the bishop?
Yeah, it's okay. It's fine. But
queen c2 not a thing because black will lose.
There's a little bit of momentum, but it's just I don't think it's enough.
Is White going for d4? Or is that
no? I think
White's
queen d5 is probably the next move, or just slow him like g3 because black doesn't have a move. You could have played. There could have been queen c2, take bishop e5, f5.
Ooh.
And you could try something like that maybe.
That was a cool trap, by the way. White could not have taken on e5. I'll show that really quickly, folks. Bishop e5.
Well, the rook moves, then you take on b4, and then maybe it's probably nothing, but it's all the draw.
Rook e8.
Yeah, okay, he's pretending. Queen f3. I don't like the structure. I don't know why he's not. Queen f3, rook e3, then queen
a5 maybe, hit the h pawn.
Maybe. I don't know.
What about e4 by black? That seems
e4. King f8. Sometimes you make a waiting move like this, but okay, yeah, I like this rerouting the bishop.
Bishop c1, bishop e3. Alireza with 10 seconds. He's obviously so good.
Oh, I think he's
little time.
Yeah, I think he's.
Now this is hanging 5 seconds. Rook a1 panicked.
No. Oh yeah, this is not. He should have just rooked you.
This pawn hangs, right? You can take it.
Yeah.
Oh, you can take this one too. Rook a7 though. Counterplay. Bishop c5 is threatened. Queen f5.
Probably have to. Maybe queen f5.
Even queen e6. That seems like a very Magnus move.
Yeah, that's. Pawn.
He loses another pawn.
Yeah, that's what you see. One thing goes wrong, and then it all collapses.
He was stable for so long. G4 Alireza trying to get a blockade going, but Magnus wins these types of endgames almost all the time.
It's not that simple.
Rook a5, trying to go to a3, maybe get this pawn in motion.
Rook a4. This may be strong.
Ooh, rook e1. It's going in the toilet for Alireza.
Yeah, that's it.
e3 coming. e2, rook c1. Or rook. Rook takes d4. No, he makes a queen.
Okay, that's good technique.
Yeah, 2 extra pawns should be easy, right? No h pawn. And Magnus Carlsen with the victory in the second game.
Yeah, you can't get that low on time. He had to liquidate, before, because he was sort of like a bit ambitious, pretending to play for a win.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he needs to just liquidate earlier because shouldn't waste time on these positions.
Do you think the biggest X factor against Magnus is sort of time management? You
Yeah.
can't allow yourself to get down to 5 seconds, even if it's a simple position?
Yeah, you really can't. I think that in this type of match, you need to be strategic, and at some point, he could take on e5 and liquidate. He could play d4 and liquidate. I think it's just more practical in that type of position where, it's just not a good idea to extend the game if you're not in control.
Have you ever been a King's Indian player? Obviously with black, the side.
Yeah, well,
that you're
I
supposed to play the
actually
King's Indian with?
play h6 a lot. Like, if you go back, I saw you were discussing this move, like bishop b3. Yeah, so the point is, so here, bishop b3, if you want to force a draw.
Yep, knight g4. Bishop
So I played a game against Mikhailevsky,
Uh-huh.
and I had a feeling that he might try and force a draw with bishop b3. So I checked, okay, how do I avoid a draw in the best possible way? So after bishop b3, knight g4.
Let's bring up an analysis board here.
Yeah,
real
bishop
quick.
c1, and now you play rook e8,
Okay.
h3, ed,
Uh-huh.
knight d4, yeah, knight f6, bishop f3, and then now like
Knight d7
it was
maybe?
something weird.
c5?
No,
No.
no, sorry, wait. What did he play? It was something really weird. No, bishop. Anyways, I won a very nice game here. Maybe it was bishop d3. Knight c6.
But this is a pretty favorable structure because anytime white plays f3
I
here.
don't remember. Wait, no. Okay, anyways, something happened, and I won a nice game, but it's like 0.6 or 0.7. It was a pretty desperate try, but anyways.
Is that how Super GMs win? Something happens and then.
Yeah,
and
no,
they
this
win?
is the King's Indian.
Hey, I know someone is writing a chessable course on it, so watch what you say with the King's Indian.
Oh, you are, yeah. No, the King's Indian good
You're on it,
opening.
so you're on the right side.
No, I think it's a good way to put pressure on people like Magnus and Nikor because they are very good when in control. So it's not a bad. I think it's actually quite smart. Alireza has played the King's Indian in classical, which it's quite a dangerous thing, but I think it's working out very well so far because in the technical positions, facing their experience is very difficult. But yeah.
Looks like black is doing
Bishop
pretty well.
a6.
Bishop
No.
pair.
She should have gone a4, I think.
Ugh, rook f2, and now you could go for some tact. Maybe knight takes g2 and f4. Looks like our blitz game.
Well, first rook, bishop a6.
He starts by f
Takes,
takes
yeah.
e4. So if knight e4, then the d5 pawn becomes really weak, and black can go.
Yeah, knight e4. Yeah. Okay, that's a nice nuance. Yeah, bishop e7, knight c3.
So unbalanced positions, is that going to be the secret sauce for Alireza? F takes e4 on the board. And where's the rook going to go? Maybe h5 also by black, just tightening the screws on the king side. He can't go g3.
Rook c8.
Looks pretty unpleasant for white.
Yeah, it's hard to find a plan here as white. There's not really maybe.
I mean, there's no moves. Your lights.
I like
e4 perhaps.
I don't like the no. You know what I think? Then that on e1 should have tried to reroute from c2 to b4. Now but the knight is just stuck. Okay, bishop c4. I really don't like this. It feels like you're completely stuck.
Magnus trying to force the bishop away from the diagonal. Alireza jumps ahead of it.
Yeah, now maybe knight a2, knight b4, but it's tactically you're gonna have some issues like the queen g4 is an idea. Rook comes to fade. Yeah, on the c file there's gonna be some tactics.
Is Alireza a tactical? Like, is this his type of position?
I think it's positional as well. Like it might look tactical because it's inconvenient, but this is actually quite a sort of nuanced position, like sort of dynamic game. But now knight b2 and if so it's extremely subtle. Like knight b2, like queen g4 is the problem.
Knight b2, queen g4,
Yeah.
threatening knight h3 check,
Yeah.
and if the king moves, bishop f no.
Yeah, no, I also thought bishop
g2 pawn is so well defended here.
maybe
Knight h3 in that position.
yeah something like that could work.
Magnus is struggling to find a move. Maybe just shift his king to h1.
I don't know. I think he has to go knight.
It's not looking great.
H3 maybe. It's a bit too.
Yeah, then something like G4.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very, very, very difficult. I don't agree with.
I don't want to look at White's position anymore.
No, the computer evaluation is really. I would not feel like. Okay, Queen G4.
Before I let you go, Hans, what kind of player is Hans Niemann? How would you characterize your style? Because when I play you, it's unlike anybody else on the planet. You're a unique player. How would you characterize your own sort of chess personality?
Well, I don't know. You've experienced it. I'm curious what you think, and then.
I think you're a tactical player by nature, but have maybe through some influence or some people you work with. I have no idea who those might be. Have shifted toward a more positional, universal approach.
Yeah.
Is that a fair characterization?
I don't know. It's maybe I need to like find a way to play against myself. That would be actually such an amazing training tool. If you could create like a human version of myself, then I wouldn't need any training partners. Okay, there must be. I'm sorry. There has to be some beautiful tactic here. It just would be.
Bishop to a square such that the knight on e1 disappears.
Oh, this
Maybe
is
knight
really...
h3.
Okay, wait.
Knight
h3.
So,
what about bishop e? No.
Knight h5 hitting the e
Oh,
pawn, but allowing a bunch of trades.
That's a very classy movie. Knight's coming to f6. Oh, it's amazing.
Very classy.
That's
very
a very,
Soviet
very nice
schoolboy.
No, I really like this move. Let's show some serious class. Because now, again, this knight in e1 is just really. This doesn't look good.
Yeah, looks like Magnus is completely paralyzed here. The eval bar doesn't seem that concerned. Is there a move though?
I don't know. It looks like things are. It's gonna collapse, but.
No moves for White.
So yeah, your question. How would I characterize him? I don't know. I just try to play the best moves, and that's my goal. I do think.
You don't believe in psychology?
I think my most impressive games have been technical, actually. Like some of the games I'm most proud of have been technical victories. Like maybe you saw my game against Maxim Chergaev in Budapest. It was so basically we had I was black and I had a knight on g3, pawn on h4, g3, pawn on e4, and he had king on g1, pawn on g2, h3, e3, and bishop on f1, or like bishop on like c4, rook on e1, and I won this position. And he played like d4, d5, c4, take like qga, and I played qga. He traded off the pieces like trying to draw, and I won this endgame in like a very, very nice way. And I think that like should be in like a book, if I must say so humbly. Well, but you should check this. You should check this game because it's like if the basically the king gets cut off. So the king is on g7, and once the king gets d5, then it must cross the d file. So it crosses the f file, then the d file, then it must cross the sort of c from c5 to c3, and then once it goes to c3, eventually it enters, and then it was. So I think I'm more I think my strength is technical, but maybe I did like my game yesterday where I sacrificed the rook. So that was queen f6, and
there weren't enough sacrifices.
Yeah, no, like I as soon as like I played h5, knight h4, I saw d5, like it was all sort of like flash. So that I guess I can play different styles, but maybe I have certain influences who are more positional.
Well, I think. I think the audience can guess at those. But Hans, you've had a very long weekend. It's time for me to let you go, but I really appreciate you coming into the studio, sharing your thoughts. I think everybody in the audience appreciates it. So you're the man, Hans. Good luck for the next 2 months. Thanks again for joining.
Thank you.
Who are you? Am I sitting on your microphone? That's the first time anybody's ever asked me that question. Thanks
Fun
again,
games.
Hans. Fun games.
And shout out to all the fans. I got an opportunity to walk around the venue here, and it really is amazing. It really is amazing as this game is nearing its final moments, short of Magnus making a crazy comeback. Really amazing. There's people watching at home, probably and hopefully over 100,000. And this has been a really special opportunity to play chess in front of a live audience. So
I agree.
Give yourselves a round of applause, because it's been really amazing to see.
You know, this is what makes the tournament magical. And a magical game right now by Alireza. He has outplayed Magnus because of the King's Indian, of course, if I may humbly say so, just so people know what to attribute this potential victory to. But Magnus, this is what he does. He keeps shifting his pieces back. He's on the first rank now. How does Alireza not have a decisive tactic here? He can't deflect the queen. If he deflects the queen, by the way, Levy, this is important. It's not checkmate because the bishop can potentially cover g1. So you can't sack your queen. And knight f6 gives Magnus a chance to trade rooks. And he's actually in.
Maybe even more as this begins to unravel.
Look at this maneuver by Alireza. He's going shades of Levy Ramazman. Remember, bishop g7 to a5. He does the other. Bishop to a4 to g6. Yep. Now he plays queen g4, giving up the d6 pawn.
Yeah, he gave up the d6 pawn. It's going to get really double-edged. I mean, look at this cocoon defense by Magnus. King h1, bishop g1.
Knight takes d5, threatening knight f4. Alireza is up a pawn.
But he's getting pinned now, so it's harder to move. Is there like a bishop b5 idea? Bishop f1 is...
Oh my gosh.
Bishop f1's not even mate.
Yeah, how many times do you have to attack this darn g2 pawn? Wow, Magnus trades queens, and he's got drawing chances, but e4 is coming, opening up the dark squared bishop. Alireza should take this Levy.
As the bishop pair, a passed e-pawn. We're looking... Apparently that was a bad... I mean, they say bring your king closer in the endgame. Apparently not against Magnus.
Don't go g3 if you're Magnus. Bishop f3 is checkmate. But look at the way he's using his knights. To c5 he goes, hitting e4 pawn. Now he can play g3.
Bishop e2 was still not checkmate, by the way, because the knight can come back to g2.
Unbelievable.
Okay, yeah, but now there's a passed pawn. I mean, this is going to be really... Bishop c3 is incoming. I think this is just...
And Magnus forgot maybe that black could actually take the bishop.
Knight c3 or d2. He's deciding. He trades the knight. This is looking like Farouj is going to win.
He doesn't even need to take the bishop. Trade on c3 and d2's coming. And now you still have to convert an extra piece.
Yes, it's actually shockingly hard to do that. As the pawns get traded off the board, he's deciding whether to queen or not. He does.
Yeah, he couldn't find a way to deflect the knight. He thinks this is the best he can do, and it is. How do you win this exactly? And I'm not talking checkmate with bishop and knight against king. I know Alireza can do that.
I think people have to realize bishop and knight versus bishop is a draw. You can't win. So this is going to come down to the final pawn.
Which Alireza is, king e4, they're threatening king f5. Magnus gonna flag though.
Oh, he's gonna flag, and he does.
And should he have tried, should Magnus have forced Alireza to checkmate him, it would have been content.
Yes. Alireza stands up. He has a question.
Is it halftime? It's not halftime yet. It is halftime.
It is halftime. Yes, it is. And he walks off. Hopefully, nothing wrong as we see Magnus's tip of his hair majestically blowing in the wind there. Yes, the point you were going to make is that he could have sacrificed the bishop for the pawn and made Alireza demonstrate a king and bishop and knight checkmate.
Now listen, with 7.5 seconds, only 1 second increment, mating with bishop and knight, understanding how to shepherd the king into the right corner, that wouldn't have been easy. But Magnus, he goes down. Alireza ties the match on the strength of an incredible, relatively smooth game on the black side of a King's Indian. Levy, this is a big confidence boost, the first victory for Alireza. And they are going to meet up in the second portion of this 5+1 match, aren't they?
They are. Magnus there, we saw, instead of taking a break, he was analyzing some things about the endgame. But anyway, let's talk about Meetup. Is anybody here looking to play chess and meet new people in their community? Enter Meetup, which is the platform for hosting and organizing community events. Connect with your local chess community or start events like chess nights or tournaments in the park. Plus, explore local community groups for any of your other hobbies that are not chess, but come on, chess is life. On Meetup, use !Meetup in the chat or visit go.chess.com/meetup to find your newest checkmates. Ha!
Your newest checkmates! That was awesome.
That was awesome.
!Meetup, folks, for those watching remotely. For those watching here and remotely, we will be back with more action from the 5+1 segment of the SCC gold medal match on the other side of this short break.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Hand and Brain. Danny Wrench here, along with Nolan Arbaugh. Nolan, thanks for doing this.
No, thanks for having me. I'm sorry for Robert being on my team, but it's going to be fun.
These guys are going to team up on their dubious openings while Canny and I do the thing we do, which is destroy those openings.
So we do.
What exactly is the Neuralink, and what is it that you're doing here with your mind and the superpowers that I see on the screen?
So the Neuralink is a brain-computer interface, which means it's a chip that's in my brain that translates, right now it's motor cortex movements into movement control on a computer. It's pretty sweet. I can control the computer with my mind.
It's amazing. It's fascinating. We're going to talk a lot about it, and we'd love to hear even more about your story. And we're going to, okay, Pawn, I forget what your opening repertoire is.
It doesn't matter. Play whatever you like, Danny. Whatever you want to play.
Okay.
Okay, we'll go there.
Wow, Carol Khan. So, but you don't watch Levy videos. You
I
can
don't.
say it. We're recording.
I don't. Yeah, no, sorry, Levy.
I'd love to know a little bit more about, if you don't mind, the story of how we got here a little bit.
A little over 8 years ago, right after my senior year of college, I was in an accident while working at a summer camp. I dislocated my C4, C5, and I was paralyzed from my shoulders down, so I'm a complete quadriplegic. 7 years, I was just trying to make my life better, do whatever I could to improve myself. Mainly at the end of that, like the last 2 years, I was really trying to find some way to add some meaning to my life and, do whatever I could to make the world a better place in a lot of cases. Get back to school, maybe, really anything. And then this opportunity came along. I had known nothing about Neuralink when it happened. My buddy, Greg Bain, called me on the phone and was like, hey, do you want to get a chip in your brain? And I was like, sure, man.
For the record, I knew nothing about Neuralink until you.
Yeah.
So just so you know.
Yeah, I had no idea. And so he called me on the phone, walked me through like what it was, gave me a 5-minute rundown of it. Then he helped me apply over the phone. So I kind of gave him all the information and he filled it out online. He spelled my name wrong on the application. So, we're off to a great start. I asked for an Iron Man suit on the application, just kind of joking around because, I had applied for studies before. Like a few years prior, I put my name in a huge database and I told them what I was looking for, trying to do like spinal cord injury stuff. And I never heard back from anyone, like not even a peep. So when I was applying for Neuralink, I was like, there's no way I'm gonna get this. I didn't hear back from like a massive database of thousands of studies, and this is so high profile, I just didn't think it was gonna happen, which is why I made so many jokes on there. But no, within like a day or two, I heard back from Neuralink. In the next month, I did probably a dozen interviews. I had, all sorts of testing done. And within 2 months, I was chosen as a candidate, and a month later, the first candidate, and within a few weeks, I was getting brain surgery.
Wow, that escalated quickly.
After a short break, we are back with the second 5+1 segment of the SCC gold medal match, which features Alireza Firouzja and On Fire and Fuego Alireza Firouzja, who faces the King, Magnus Carlsen, the reigning SCC champion. The score all tied up 1.5 apiece. Alireza winning a lovely game in the King's Indian to tie up the match. Both players with 1 victory and 1 draw apiece. Levy, your thoughts thus far on the match as we get the 4th game started?
Couldn't be more tense. The first game was really tense. Both guys demonstrating really nice offensive and defensive ideas. And for the second time, we have an E4, E5. Also, both guys striking with the black pieces. And we see Magnus playing an Italian sideline here with H6.
Okay, well, I was a fan of that move until I saw Bishop E7 because G7, G5 has gotten really popular recently for black.
And G6 as well, to put the bishop there. Generally, black plays H6 to stop any of white's pieces from going to the G5 square. And this is kind of an edgier way to play the Italian, but generally Bishop to E7 and H6 is kind of rare.
It also catches my eye that Magnus is not playing d6, which is often automatic, which tells me he might want to go d7, d5 in one fell swoop. But that's a really risky proposition, especially seeing the move Rook e1. Magnus is like, no, thanks, but no thanks. He plays d6. The good thing about the Italian for black, there's not a lot of good things about facing the Italian, but one of the redeeming factors that you can basically do anything you want. Put the bishop on e7, put it on c5, and you might be slightly worse, but you're not likely to be losing out of the opening.
That's the nice thing, right? You can play forever, and you can be fine. You can be slightly worse, you can be slightly better, and there's the most difficult thing by far about learning the Italian is learning the Italian. So with all the different setups and where the pieces can go, and whether you can play h6, knight h7, and king h8, f5, that's that, like, to me, and knight g5. I mean, these are the things you get after a decade of playing. And bishop f6, like, what are we even doing here? The knight is going to e7.
Every time I think I have a handle on Magnus's plan, okay, he's definitely going to go f5. That's why he brought the knight off from f6. Nope. He puts a bishop in front of the f-pawn. And Levy, this is kind of how Hikaru was playing yesterday against Rui Lopez.
By the way, Danya, h3, I don't mean to cut you off.
No,
h3
please.
is literally to move the knight to h2, and then make the g5 knight look dumb and play h4, g3, etc. probably. Like, what is happening here?
Well, we saw knight h7 and knight h2 in the King's Indian game. Now we might see both of those moves played in an Italian game. But watch for c6 and d5. This is the drawback of putting the queen on b3.
Okay.
Speaking of drawbacks.
Drawback. You make a move backwards. Alireza comes forward. That's generally his playing style. Knight g6. This is such an absurd Italian position. What is going on?
Got this weird cluster of pieces on the king side. It looks like Magnus is setting up for an attack, but that's going to be hard to follow through on because Alireza can essentially bail out whenever he wants to. Is now the time, and Levy, knight takes g5 could be met by h takes g5, creating a real stronghold on f4.
I was just about to suggest the move bishop f1, and you basically move the bishop out of the way because you don't want that queenside offensive with c65 to hit it, and you also defend your king side.
Yeah, defend against any shenanigans with knight takes h3. I'm a big fan of those sacks. Where's Magnus's light squared bishop going to go? Is he going to fianchetto it?
Well, that would be very odd. I really like where it's standing now, but you can't move it. That's the problem. You can't play bishop d7 because b7 hangs in a lot of positions. Yeah, he very well could go b6. I mean, yeah, and there you go. The plan of the Italian is you can keep the bishop on one diagonal or the other. Another thing, though, Danya, he could have played b6 not to go to b7, but to just move the bishop.
Yeah, this is one of those cases where you could be playing this move to fianchetto this bishop, but you're also playing it to build up the pawn chain. So he could be going this way. He could... It's one of those cases where the bishop is essentially developed without having made a single move. Wow. You could maybe sacrifice it at some later point.
The sign of a player that doesn't know what to do in a position is when he repeats the position and his opponent hasn't repeated the position. So bishop f1 to c4. And I wonder now, Magnus can't play b6 to b7, unfortunately.
That would be a pretty enticing three-time repetition. Rook to b8, maybe ensuring that bishop d5 doesn't come with tempo. Now, I mean, white could still play bishop d5 going for some of these light squares, but that doesn't seem to be where the party is at. Also, let's not forget, I was going to say d takes e5 can happen at some point and totally change the nature of the position.
Now the position is opening up. So the d file opens, you start looking, how can white activate this knight on d2? I mean, in general, in every position that needs to be played in a positional manner or a strategic manner, you start looking around and going, what's my worst piece? The knight on d2, yeah, it could go to f1. The problem is e4 is hanging in a lot of positions, and if you move the knight to f1 right now, you get taken on f3. So what do you do?
Yeah, the knight on d2 is like, that kid in PE class who hasn't been chosen by anybody to team up with. I have not had any experience with that.
We don't need to go down my childhood memories, okay? And that is why I
just went down mine. Bishop takes g5, and knight to f1, knight to e3, Levy. You made the right call. You want to go knight c4 in these types of positions. Barring that, bishop takes g5 is a pretty big concession because you are allowing h takes g5, and to my eyes, that's what Magnus has to do if he wants to unbalance this position, which he doesn't.
And as you finish your sentence, he says, Danya, I have completely other plans. And he has no intentions of attacking Alireza on the king side. He does have an intention of having an active dark squared bishop.
Interesting positionally minded decisions by Magnus. I mean, he's played into Alireza's King's Indian. He hasn't played the same-ish. He played a very positional main line. Here, you can see him steering the game into more balanced territory. That's kind of what we saw from Hikaru yesterday. It's what we saw from Hikaru against Alireza, except he failed in that. What are we going to see here from Magnus? Knight to h4? Feels like this move has been played 1,000 times in this match, as has knight h2, which I think it might be time for.
Just trying to get rid of some of Alireza's active pieces and take the game to a two-bishop versus bishop-knight middle game. But then the question becomes, what is Magnus going to do with his pawns, Danya? Like, he's not going to move the C pawn because then B6 becomes weak. And he's not going to move the F pawn because the E pawn becomes weak. So, I mean, I just like White's position.
It feels like Magnus, he overcooked it a little bit. He had a chance to play HG. You know, he's trying to trade off Alireza's strong pieces, and he's succeeding, but new strong pieces are replacing them. And Alireza solved the main problem in his position. This knight on E3 used to be on D2. Now it's the coolest kid in the class. We're not going down my childhood
Another
memories.
set of childhood memories, yes.
I think C6 might be a sad necessity. It might be the lesser evil. Maybe prepares B5 in some universe, but there's no question Alireza is better now. You might even see him playing a crazy move like Queen A3 to get the D file.
Oh man, you kind of stole my thunder there. I was like, yeah, if C6, Queen A3, and then you get the B file, and the B6 pawn is quite vulnerable. The easy way for people watching here and at home to think about this position, the bishop and the knight for white can both operate on the light squares, and the bishops for black can't both operate on the light squares. So Alireza is going to focus on the light squares. You look at the D5 square, it's controlled by the pawn, the knight, the bishop, the queen, and the rook. And if he doubles, another rook. So
and maybe get the king to C6, so
yes.
Every single one of your pieces controls the same square.
Exactly. So that's the money square, and C6 is played.
Okay, C6, and the fact that Magnus took like a minute on that move tells you he is not a happy camper when he plays it. The bishop is pushed away. Black is really cramped, and I mean, the King's Indian game and now this one, Alireza's positional handling has been really awesome to see. G6 by Magnus, trying to slither away to G7. Maybe that F7, F5 idea is going to make an appearance, but for that to happen, you need to also move your king. Alireza doesn't have forever. He needs to find a way to generate a new wave of the attack. Whether it's Queen A3 or doubling the rooks, hard to say.
And Magnus is always taking a look at that B5 move. That B5 move is coming at a critical moment to open up the B file. Right now, it's just simply not possible. We have kingside improvements being made.
H4, H5,
Yeah.
finishing the architectural
exactly.
beautification of the position.
Yes, H4, H5. I mean, you generally answer H4 with H5. Magnus is debating if he wants to do it. Magnus is very careful in general as a player with pawn moves.
Yeah, that's a great insight. You don't see him making weaknesses willy-nilly. I mean, Hikaru sometimes takes more liberties on that front, but Magnus is very positionally trained. His position always seems really healthy.
Wow, except that move!
But
As we were talking about Rook D, Rook
D5, look at that F5 square levy.
Yeah, Rook D. G5 is that is Magnus trying to take a risk.
No, that is Magnus hearing the commentators
And
leaking in his ear and saying he doesn't make any
He
weaknesses.
cannot hear us. All right, do not put any ideas into former world champions' heads. All right, Rook to D6 is the best move. It's a natural move because it does attack the C6 pawn, and Alireza has to realize, Danya, that opening the G and H files actually benefits him and not Magnus, and he's played it.
Dude, Gary Kasparov didn't like what you just said. Of course, that's what you were referring to. Rook to D6. Guess what? You're not just threatening Rook C6. That threatens Rook takes C8, and then Knight F5. This is mind-blowing. Magnus just self-destructing, losing his patience.
Rook takes C8 is a fatal threat. The game is over.
And if you move your king levy, Knight D5, another fatal threat. It's a double attack.
Rook
takes C8.
Bishop E3.
Rook takes F8, and you lose a piece. Maybe White's king gets weak at the end of the line, but there's no way that Magnus can get away with this.
But Rook C8 is... Alireza just... I think he's composing himself. If he doesn't see Rook C8, it's a very bad sign. He's played it.
But I think he's worried maybe a little bit about Bishop takes C3 and then Queen G5 at the end of the line. But Magnus has no pieces in the attack. You could play Rook to G1 after Queen G5.
He's just up a piece, Danya. Queen C2. Look at that move, bringing the queen back for defensive purpose.
Drop away to H1, Queen F3.
Queen G2
check.
Is a check. You stop guarding your own rook, but it's a cross check, and now you maybe even Rook G1, although that's a bit cramped of a move. Maybe Rook F1.
Queen G2, anything wins. Magnus has no attack. He had one threat. That was Queen F3 check. G5 was unbelievable. I mean, you just don't see that kind of self-destruction from Magnus.
We were just talking about how careful he is with pawn moves.
Oh my gosh. Rook G8.
Commentator's curse.
Always.
G1 maybe just easy.
You could even take the queen.
Yeah.
How many pawns does Black have for the piece? Only one? He's about to have 0.
Yes, Bishop takes F7 here, Bishop D5. I mean, the doubled H pawns do not intimidate anybody.
If Alireza had 5 seconds here, I'd have full faith in his ability to win this game. I would go for B4, just create a pass pawn, gobble up F7. He's got a menu of options here, and he's about to have a 1-point lead for the first time in this match.
The only reason he's playing so slowly is because he has the time. You get such a winning position against Magnus with a time lead, you're like, okay, don't blow it. All right, let me just gather myself, and he's going to pick up as many pawns as possible, and then he's likely to get the win.
C4 is possible. You're absolutely right, Levy. When you play people like Magnus and Hikaru, you see ghosts, right? You double, triple check stuff that normally you wouldn't. And this is very professionally handled by Alireza. He's got 30 seconds on his clock. He's making every one of those seconds count for him.
Yeah,
Resign time.
and, yeah.
Resign time.
And there it is.
Whoa, whoa.
Whoa, indeed. That was a huge win by Alireza, but it was kind of handed to him with this move G5. That was a crazy move.
It was a crazy move. I will say that Alireza's handling of the early middle game, really impressive, the way he got his knight around. You're right, though, Levy. First of all, bishop takes G5, not taking back with the pawn. Then playing the move G5. Pretty panicky reactions there from Magnus Carlsen, and the hometown favorite jumps ahead to a 1-point lead. I think it's time to wrap up the match. There's really no more intrigue.
Yeah, let's go home,
Magnus
French
has any
fans.
hope. Yep,
That's it. That's it. Alireza wins
see
the match.
people heading toward the exits.
That's crazy. All the fans are exiting.
No.
Unfortunately, that's not how it works. You got to beat Magnus over the course of 3 hours.
Oh my gosh, what a game we just saw. Another King's Indian by Alireza. So any King's Indian lovers out there, you are in for a treat. As Magnus keeps embracing the challenge, and we will embrace a different kind of challenge and get Danny Wrench onto our big screen. Danny is standing by with some very special segments. Danny, take it away. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Danya. I agree. The fans are in for a treat with this match. And Nolan Arbaugh, Neuralink patient, Ground Zero, you were in for a treat. You got to make the first move of the Speeches Championship final. I know you're a huge fan, man. What was that like?
It was awesome. I'm really grateful to chess.com for reaching out to me and letting me do this. It's kind of a dream of mine to do something like this, so I'm super blessed, and it was great.
What made you choose the move you did, and how much time did you think about it? Were you nervous about which move to make?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it for weeks. I decided to go with the bomb cloud for the memes. That's about it. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, you look great, by the way.
So much. Thanks, man. You look good too.
How's been the trip so far? Just last thoughts on the Speeches Championship, the live finals, the fans, this whole thing. And your thoughts on the trip to Paris and maybe also the match?
Yeah, it's definitely been one of the highlights of my year. I'm so glad I get to be here. The match is, it's super exciting.
You're rooting for Magnus, right? You're a Magnus fan.
I am. But I don't know. It's going to be close. They're both in great form, so we'll see what happens.
Nolan rooting for Magnus to maybe level things up here. I know the fans in Paris, we don't want them to know that upstairs. They might not feel the same way, but all right. We're going to throw it back upstairs to Danya and Levy to take it away as we've got another game in full swing here. Maybe Magnus going to level things up at the end of this one. Danya, take it away.
Well, thank you, Danny, and thank you, Nolan, once again for everything. I'm glad that you were off the mic because we don't need anybody here knowing who's a Magnus fan and who's a Ferrugia fan. But, of course, big shout-out to Nolan for bringing so much attention to chess, for everything that he's done, and just for being an awesome guy. Levy, in the meantime, not much has happened on this board.
But for the second time in a row, we've got a rook on d6 causing havoc.
Yeah, I mean, Magnus is letting Alireza have havoc because bishop c4 is coming, and we saw the same structure earlier, but this bishop on g4, there is no bishop on g4. There is no bishop, and there is no access to the d4 square.
What's funny is I feel they're getting a very similar structure from kind of different openings. Like there's always like a d takes e5 type of thing happening, and then there's always like an open d file, but it's coming different ways. Like b6 feels like a move you play after you take a 1-game lead against Magnus. You just kind of like, I'm playing with house money. Whatever happens in this game, it's back to an even mesh.
I think Magnus, to your point, had exactly the same structure in an Italian with pawns on c6, b6, and I want to say a5. I'm looking at moves like bishop to a6. It's clear what he's trying to do. He wants to get this rook off his back, but even dropping the rook back to d1 might already have made the trip worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you weaken the structure, and we have to remember pawns can't go backwards. This is textbook stuff. You make a move forward, the opponent reacts, and you're like, nope, just kidding. I'm going backwards, and I've weakened your structure, and I'm going to feast. This is a 2-bishop position of a dream.
Oh, it absolutely is. You could see g3 and bishop h3. The great thing about a move like rook to d1 is that if black pushes b5, not only could the rook come back to d6, like, all right, resume our previous position, but you could have a move like a4 to carve out this lovely little developing square for white's bishop.
Or the knight, d2, c4, like in the Benoni.
Man, there's ideas everywhere. Magnus is trying to extract the maximum from this position. takes on f4.
I mean, it very well could work, but it does feel a little impatient by a guy who is known for his patience. By the way, what was that? There was like something else besides taking back on f4? Why did the computer not like black taking back on f4?
Could there have been b takes c5 instead?
Oh my god.
Did I show that?
Yeah, I think you should.
Let's bring up an analysis board. In this position, how many of us would pre-move e takes f4? Everyone in this room. There's one guy who's like, no, I would have played bc.
Yeah, actually, he would have just hung his queen, but the rook is hanging for a moment.
And if queen takes c5, there's another intermezzo.
Oh my
96, can't take
gosh.
it because the queen hangs. That's what that person would have done.
Yes. Who
Queen to
are we
A3,
insulting,
knight
by the way?
F4.
Is just the phantom in the audience?
Phantom in the opera, or that's
Yep.
nearby Phantom in the audience.
Yes,
and
indeed.
black is pretty much fine here. Let's see how the game went instead. He took, allowing this pawn to inch forward, Levy, and now it's the hour of the light squared bishop because look at what it's doing to black's kingside. How impressive is this for white?
This is looking fair. I mean, can you just double up, or is there like with the queen maybe?
You won. You would have move.
Yeah, queen d. I also like queen d3, queen d2. Queen d2 hits the pawn on a5 and f4. I mean,
God.
this is like the worst position ever. Like what can you even do here?
Black is up a pawn, the most irrelevant piece of information ever. There could be some tactics. Queen d2, bishop takes c5, but
Rook d8.
rook d8 and rook e5, white wins, and maybe that's what he's calculating. He's played queen d2, good call partner. G5 played by Alireza.
Yeah, I mean, I might as well. Might as well.
Ali Levy.
Yeah. I remember there was a commentary. You kept calling me
Wesley.
Yes.
I did it again recently.
Like
You
in-
were not on commentary, but I
Oh.
called you Wesley.
Well, I mean, thank you, but please don't tell him that. G5. So now what do we do? Yeah, just H3.
Maybe I already know that he calls you by my name, and I like it.
That's a fantastic. Okay,
Whoa.
I thought Rook G6 just hung material, but
Rook d1 instead, tripling on the d file, attacking the rook on d8. If it moves, you can play rook takes g6. If it takes, the pawn replaces
Yeah.
it. Ugh.
oh, this is nasty stuff. The queen is also going to infiltrate on the light squares, like queen d3, queen a5, of course. Yeah, we're going to take that. We're going to take on c5. That's probably the most practical thing. Then you have an outside pass pawn.
This is reminding me of the previous game, sort of with colors reversed. It's Alireza who was sort of outplaying Magnus, and then at some point Magnus got impatient. Here, Alireza had that chance to play b takes c5, and once he missed it, it seems like this game is a foregone conclusion. If you're allowing d7 and queen d6, you lose. I think queen d7 is necessary.
If you allow any of it, you lose. I mean, I think Alireza is almost taking time off the clock. He's d7, queen d6. Every move wins for white.
Yeah, and Magnus, very careful here. He knows, you squander a game like this, and suddenly Alireza has a lot of momentum. Can you believe that almost an hour has passed from the match clock already?
Now,
Your
this match was predicted to be to be a 2-game lead for Magnus after the 5+1. That was estimated to be his best portion of the match. And so far, Alireza's held his own, so I think it's a good sign. I think as they speed up, they're both going to get more into the zone and have less of these weird lulls. Like you see here, Alireza down 2 minutes with a very bad position. Sometimes 5-1 is the most difficult format to play because they literally don't play it, except in this event.
Yeah, it's just, and nobody even plays 5+0 anymore. That used to be a popular time control, but now 3+0 is the order of the day. I mean, if you say that you're a 5-minute player, you're like Rip Van Winkle. You fell asleep in the 1990s.
Rookie 7 resigns or what?
Oh, that's lovely, because queen e7, de,
Yeah.
and then the pawn promotes,
Bishop takes f7 now.
Woo!
Yeah.
and then Magnus' move is something like queen e4, just establishing his presence, laying down the wood.
Yep. No, it's just over. I'm kind of shocked he hasn't played bishop f7. Maybe he's looking at something more vicious, like rook e8, which is a positional disaster, completely dominating the 8th rank.
Yeah, I mean, the restraint to avoid taking on f7. Maybe he's looking for a more beautiful victory, but I don't think this is the time in the match to try to please the fans. I think he's pleasing the fans already with everything he's offered us this weekend.
Why has he not taken the pawn with check? I don't get. Is there something better here? It's just that.
You could even play queen e4 right away, because this pawn isn't really going anywhere.
Yes, yeah. But what? What are we doing here? I don't know.
But bishop f7 does feel very, very tempting, followed by something like queen e4. And Magnus
I've not-
savoring the moment.
I have nothing else to say about this position. There's a pawn hanging with a check, and it's not a bad move. You can.
Now, Levy, you were right, though. I think rook to e8.
All right, yeah. You were gonna say rook e8 was +5, but this is +4. Oh, how dare he?
But you want to know why rook e8 was +5? Let me show really quickly as Magnus puts the finishing touches on this game. Instead of rook takes d7, not here, in this position, rook e8 created a crazy threat of queen to g6.
Wow, the double pin.
This is why I had to show this line. And what does this threaten? This threatens 95, a triple pin, because you can't take the knight either, because the doubly pinned queen is pinning the bishop. How did Magnus miss this? I don't know.
No, I think he might have seen it, but what am I doing? Just play the normal thing.
Ooh, mate threat on G8, D7
D7,
now.
Queen G8, sack the queen to promote.
Oh, this is just a disaster. This is not the best advertisement for the King's Indian, but maybe it has something to do with who's playing white.
Yeah, but also the previous game was nice. He won.
Wait a second. D7, a slightly sloppy move. I think Magnus might have been relying on 95 here.
But it should
Which
work.
Should work.
I mean,
Should
it's
win.
95 takes, and then I mean, when the freaking pawn's on D7, like, you got to be winning, but
But Alireza's threatening queen takes D7 because he has the G8 square under control. You could play a move like queen to D6 to meet queen takes D7 with queen F8, but Magnus taking more of his time. If Alireza can get this down to a time scramble, he gives himself an outside chance of doing the unimaginable.
if Alireza Firouzja saves this game, I will be speechless.
The bishop can slide up to E6. It's not the quantity of pass pawns, it is the quality.
Yes, but queen can come back, and the fact that black's pawns are doubled makes it even worse.
I'm really impressed with Alireza's defensive skill here. The fact that this game is still going, that Magnus has 20 seconds on his clock, it just doesn't feel as confident as we're used to him seeing converting these positions.
That's really the story. Alireza has been very sharp defensively, but I do sense hesitancy from Magnus more than anything else.
King F8 trying to get the king
Queen
involved.
C5, let's kick it away. Yeah, Queen C5, and let's start taking.
Get out of here. He takes C6, threatening Queen C8.
It's over. Queen C8 is okay, but he takes on G4. But I mean, okay, Queen C5.
Another
and Queen
check
C8.
on C5.
C5 and
I
Queen
said,
C8.
get out of here.
Yes.
The commentators are Levy and
There
Daniel,
it is.
not the king on G7, and
Okay.
Magnus ties the match.
That was a very nice win, and somehow it took a little bit longer than we all thought it was going to be.
And Magnus, he's very self-critical. We see that in every interview. He focuses on what he could be doing better. You could see maybe a little bit of disappointment from him there, but nonetheless, it was a smooth, professional positional game, and